Hey there and welcome. Today we are diving into a piece of Korean grammar that is an absolute game changer, especially when you're talking about your plans or decisions. You know, when you want to say, I've decided to, well, you're in exactly the right place. Let's jump right in. So think about it for a second. How do you say, I've decided to do something in Korean? It could be a plan to meet up with a friend, a new habit you're trying to start. Whatever it is, the grammar pattern we're going to cover today is absolutely key. Okay, so first things first. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the rules, let's just listen. I'm going to say a few sentences so you can get a real feel for how this pattern sounds in a natural conversation. Ready? Listen closely. Let's start slow. 내일부터 운동을 시작하기로 했어요. Now, at a more natural pace. 내일부터 운동을 시작하기로 했어요. And one more time just to hear it again. 내일부터 운동을 시작하기로 했어요. And that means I decided to start exercising from tomorrow. A classic resolution, am I right? Let's hear another one. All right, here's the next one. Slowly. 친구랑 주말에 영화를 보기로 했어요. Again, a bit more naturally. 친구랑 주말에 영화를 보기로 했어요. And a final time. 친구랑 주말에 영화를 보기로 했어요. And the translation is, I plan to watch a movie with my friend on the weekend. Oh, and pay attention to that little nuance. It can mean decided to or plan to. Pretty useful. Okay, next example. See if you can really hear that key grammar piece. Let's go slow. 올해에는 매일 일기를 쓰기로 했어요. And now at natural speed, 올해에는 매일 일기를 쓰기로 했어요. One last time. 올해에는 매일 일기를 쓰기로 했어요. This one means I decided to write a diary every day this year. Another fantastic goal to have. Let's keep the ball rolling. Slowly first. 다음 주부터 커피를 줄이기로 했어요. And now conversationally. 다음 주부터 커피를 줄이기로 했어요. And again. 다음 주부터 커피를 줄이기로 했어요. And that translates to, I decided to cut down on coffee starting next week. Oof, a tough one for many of us, for sure. All right, last example for this little section. Let's do it slowly. 이번 주말에는 가족과 함께 쉬기로 했어요. And one more time, naturally. 이번 주말에는 가족과 함께 쉬기로 했어요. And again, just to lock it in. 이번 주말에는 가족과 함께 쉬기로 했어요. This simply means I decided to rest with my family this weekend. A decision we could probably all use a little more of. Okay, so you've heard it in action a few times now. You probably have a pretty good idea of what it does, right? But let's make it official and look at the exact definition. So the most important thing to get here is that the decision is already locked in. It's a done deal. This isn't for something you might do, like, I'm thinking of exercising. No, this is for when you've already made the call. I have decided to exercise. It's a firm plan, maybe even a promise you've made to yourself. So, how do we make this ourselves? You might think it's going to be complicated, but I promise this is one of the friendliest, most straightforward grammar patterns out there. Let's look at the simple steps to build it. It's really just a simple three-step process. You take any verb, you find its stem, that's just the part without the da at the end, you attach 기도하다, and then you just conjugate it into the past tense, which gives us our final form, 기도했어요. That's it. And this table here just shows how incredibly consistent this rule is. Take a verb like 공부하다, to study. The stem is 공부하, so it just becomes 공부하기로 했어요. Or how about 먹다, to eat. The stem is 먹, which gives us 먹기로 했어요. See how simple that is? It just works every single time. Let's move on and see how this all comes together in the real world. We'll cover a few key things to remember and then jump right into how you can start practicing immediately. So, just to recap the big ideas, this is for decisions that are already made, which is why you hear it all the time when people talk about their plans and resolutions. And hey, pay close attention to that last point on politeness levels. You're going to use 기도했어요 in most of your daily chats, but you'll want to switch to the more formal 기도하였습니다 for something like a business presentation or a very formal setting. Okay, here is your official call to action. The best way to learn any grammar is to make it personal. So why not make this your resolution? Go ahead, say it out loud with me. 올해에는 한국어 공부를 꾸준히 하기로 했어요. Make that decision right here, right now. And here's one final example just to lock it all in. Notice the subject here is we, 우리. This pattern works perfectly for group decisions too. 우리는 다음 달에 여행을 가기로 했어요. We decided to go on a trip next month. All right, there you have it. We've heard it, we've deconstructed it, we've seen how to build it. Now the power is in your hands. It is your turn to decide what you're going to do using this pattern. And I want to leave you with this. Always remember it. Watching and listening is great, but speaking is where the real magic happens. Your voice is the absolute key to mastering any language. So go ahead, decide on something, and say it out loud in Korean. You can totally do this. Have you ever wanted to talk about your life in Korean? You know, share that amazing trip you took or that incredible food you tried. Well, that's exactly what we're going to master today. We're going to unlock the key to sharing all your past experiences. Let's get right into it. But we're going to do things a little differently. Forget about diving headfirst into a bunch of grammar rules. No. We're going to start by just listening. Seriously, the secret to sounding natural in any language is to get the sound right first. So for now, your only job is to listen. So I want you to imagine someone asks you this question. A pretty common one, right? Have you ever been to Korea? Now, get ready to hear the Korean answer. Just focus on the sound of it. Okay, we're going to hear this sentence 3 times. This is our secret weapon today. Listen, listen, and listen again. First, we'll go super slow so you can catch every single sound. 한국에 가본 적이 있어요. Got it? Now let's hear it at a more natural, everyday pace. 한국에 가본 적이 있어요. And finally, let's hear it fluently, just like you would in a real conversation. 한국에 가본 적이 있어요? Perfect. Just let that rhythm sink in for a second. All right, you've heard the sound. Now you're probably wondering, what in the world did I just hear? It might seem like a mouthful, but I promise you, once we pull back the curtain, you'll see how simple and powerful it really is. Let's break it down. And here it is. This is the magic piece right here. 는 저기 있어요. This little chunk is the Korean way of saying I have done something before or I have the experience of. So anytime you want to share something you've done in your past, this is your go-to phrase. It's a total game changer. Now, there are just a couple of quick things to keep in mind. First, this is always about something that happened in the past. Second, it doesn't matter if you did it just 1 time or 100 times, it still works. And hey, what if you've never done something? Super simple, you just swap out 있어요, which means to have, for upsoil, which means to not have. Easy, right? So how do we actually attach this to other verbs to talk about, other experiences? This is the best part. The rules are so simple, you're going to love it. There's just one tiny thing you need to look for. Let's check it out. And here it is. This is the entire system. All you do is look at the verb stem. If that stem ends in a vowel, like ga from the verb to go, you just stick 면 적이 있어요 right on it. But if the stem ends in a consonant, like 먹 from the verb to eat, you add 은 적이 있어요 instead to make it sound smoother. That's literally it. That's the whole rule. Now that you're in on the secret, let's get back to training our ears. We're going to hear this pattern used in a few different sentences. Don't try to overthink it. Just listen and let your brain start making the connections. And you know the drill. We're going to hear each one 3 times. Ready? Our first one is about food, of course. Let's hear it nice and slow. 김치찌개를 먹어본 적이 있어요? Okay, now at a natural speed. 김치찌개를 먹어본 적이 있어요. And finally, nice and fluent. 김치찌개를 먹어본 적이 있어요. And that means, I have tried kimchi stew before. See how that works? The verb to eat, 먹다, ends in a consonant, so we use that 은 form we just talked about. This is perfect for talking about all the delicious food experiences you've had. All right, next up, I have a feeling this one applies to a lot of you out there. Let's listen. First, slowly. 한국 드라마를 본 적이 있어요. Now, naturally, 한국 드라마를 본 적이 있어요. And one more time, fluently. 한국 드라마를 본 적이 있어요. This one means I have watched a Korean drama before. Here, the verb is 보다, to see or to watch. The stem, 보, ends in a vowel, right? So we just add that N form. It just clicks into place, see? It's so logical. Let's try another one, this time about an activity with someone else. Here we go, slowly now. 친구랑 여행한 적이 있어요. A bit faster, naturally. 친구랑 여행한 적이 있어요. And fluently, 친구랑 여행한 적이 있어요. And that means I have traveled with a friend before. This shows you how you can talk about pretty much any shared experience from your past. It's incredibly useful. Okay, one last example to make sure this is really locked into your brain. Listen up. Slowly, 비행기를 타본 적이 있어요? Naturally, 비행기를 타본 적이 있어요? And finally, fluently, 비행기를 타본 적이 있어요? And this one simply means I have taken an airplane before. So from eating to watching to traveling, you can see how this one single pattern lets you talk about a whole world of different experiences. Okay, we've listened, we've figured out the rules, we've heard it in action. Now comes the most important part of all. It's time to take this knowledge out of your head and actually put it to use. It's your turn. I want you to look at the sentence on the screen and say it out loud. Right now. Come on, don't be shy. Let's try it. 한국 음식을 먹어본 적이 있어요? Good. Say it again. Feel how those sounds flow together. This is how you really make the language your own. And now for the final challenge. Think about a real experience from your own life. Have you seen a certain movie? Have you visited a cool place? Eaten something unique? Try to build that sentence in your head. Or even better, say it out loud. So what have you done before? Because in the end, that is what it's all about. Listening is step one. But the real learning, the part that makes it stick, happens when you speak. Your voice really is the key. So go on, start sharing your stories. Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving into a super useful Korean grammar pattern. Seriously, this one's a game changer for talking about your past experiences. If you've ever wanted to share all your cool adventures in Korean, you have come to the right place. I mean, think about it. How do you actually say something like, oh yeah, I've been to Korea, or I've tried kimchi before? Answering questions just like that is exactly what we're going to nail down today. It's all about sharing your story your way. Okay, so before we break down any rules, we're just going to listen. The best way to really get a feel for a new pattern is to hear it in the wild, right? So just sit back, relax, and let these sentences soak in. See if you can spot what they all have in common. All right, first one, listen closely and feel free to repeat after me. Here we go. 한국에 가본 적이 있어요. Let's try that again. 한국에 가본 적이 있어요. And one more time. 한국에 가본 적이 있어요. That means I've been to Korea before. Awesome. Next up, let's do it. 김치를 먹어본 적이 있어요. Repeat that with me. 김치를 먹어본 적이 있어요. Okay, one last time. 김치를 먹어본 적이 있어요. And that translates to, I've tried eating kimchi. You are totally getting the rhythm of this. Here's a really common one. 한국 드라마를 본 적이 있어요? Let's hear it again. 한국 드라마를 본 적이 있어요. And a final time, make it strong. 한국 드라마를 본 적이 있어요. This one means I've watched a Korean drama before. Let's keep that momentum going. Try this one out. 한복을 입어본 적이 있어요? Second time. 한복을 입어본 적이 있어요? And once more for good measure. 한복을 입어본 적이 있어요. That means I've tried wearing a hanbok. And for our last example in this section, listen up. 한국 노래방에 가본 적이 있어요. Again, please. 한국 노래방에 가본 적이 있어요. Final time, you got this. 한국 노래방에 가본 적이 있어요. This means I've been to a Korean karaoke room before. Okay, let's pause and unpack that. Did you hear it? That little phrase that kept popping up at the end of every single sentence, that 본 적이 있어요 sound? That right there is the magic key. See, you're already getting the sound of it in your head. And there it is, the star of our show, 본 적이 있어요. This is basically the Korean way of saying, I have experienced or I have tried doing. It's your new best friend for telling people all the amazing stuff you've done. So we know what it means, but how do you actually build sentences with it? Well, it's way easier than you might think. Let's take a look at the building blocks piece by piece. It's literally just 3 simple steps. First, you grab your verb stem. Let's take to eat, which is 먹다. You attach 어보다 to it, which kind of adds the meaning of to try doing it, so you get 먹어보다. Step 2, you add 인 적이 있다, which basically means the experience exists. Now we have 먹어본 적이 있다. And for the final touch, we just make it polite for conversation. So 있다 becomes 있어요. And boom, 먹어본 적이 있어요. It's just like snapping together little grammar Legos. And get this, the best part is how simple it is to talk about things you haven't done too. It all comes down to one tiny word swap. For the positive, I have experienced, you use 있어요. To say you've never had an experience, you just switch it with 없어요. So, 김치를 먹어본 적이 없어요 means I've never tried kimchi. How cool and efficient is that? All right, we've listened, we've broken it down, and now it's your turn. This is where you get to make this grammar your own. Because, learning the concept is one thing, but actually using it to talk about your own life, that's the whole point. And here's a pro tip to get you started. Don't overthink it. Just pick any action you've actually done before. Have you learned something new? Read a great book? Visited a new place? Just find the verb for that action, grab the stem, and plug it right into the pattern we've been practicing. This is a perfect example. The verb here is 올라가다, to go up. All they did was take that stem, 올라가, and slot it right into our pattern. And just like that, you get 서울 타워에 올라가 본 적이 있어요? See? You can literally describe any experience you've had just by swapping out that one piece. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Whether it's a huge trip or a small everyday victory, what is the very first story you're going to tell using this pattern? Start thinking about it, because now you have the perfect tool to share it.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever wanted to talk about all the cool things you've tried, but, in Korean? Well, today, we're going to dive into a super useful grammar pattern that lets you do exactly that. Let's get right into it.
So let me just ask you, have you ever tried making your own kimchi? That amazing, spicy, fermented cabbage? It's such a classic Korean experience, but how would you actually say that in Korean?
Well, you'd say it just like this. 김치를 만들어봤어요. This sentence is going to be our key for today. It uses the grammar pattern 아 or 봤어요, which is all about talking about your experiences, the things you've tried out just to see what they're like.
Okay, the best way to make new grammar stick is to actually say it out loud. Seriously. So we're going to do a quick repetition drill. I'm going to say each sentence 3 times, and I want you to repeat after me each time. You ready? Let's do this.
First up, our kimchi sentence. Repeat after me. 김치를 만들어봤어요. 김치를 만들어봤어요. And one more time. 김치를 만들어봤어요. Awesome! And that, of course, means I tried making kimchi. You've just told someone you have the experience of making it yourself. Great job! Let's move on to the next one. All right, next experience. Let's talk about food. Okay, repeat after me 3 times. 불고기를 먹어봤어요. 불고기를 먹어봤어요. Last time. 불고기를 먹어봤어요. So what did you just say? You said, I've tried eating bulgogi. You're telling someone you've had that delicious, savory experience. You are doing great. Let's keep this momentum going. How about some K-pop or maybe a classic Korean ballad? Let's give this one a shot. Repeat after me. 한국 노래를 불러봤어요. 한국 노래를 불러봤어요. Okay, one last time with feeling. 한국 노래를 불러봤어요. And this is a perfect example of how you can talk about cultural experiences. You just said, I tried singing a Korean song. Doesn't matter if it was at a noraebang or just in your shower. You gave it a try. Let's try another cultural experience, this time about something you might wear. Ready? Repeat after me. 한복을 입어봤어요. 한복을 입어봤어요. Excellent. Again. 한복을 입어봤어요. And just like that, you said, I tried wearing a hanbok. What a beautiful and memorable experience to share, right? So, the key takeaway here is that this grammar works for all kinds of actions. Okay, here we go, our final sentence in the drill. I have a feeling this one might be true for a lot of you out there. Let's say it together. 한국 영화를 봤어요. 한국 영화를 봤어요. One more time for good measure. 한국 영화를 봤어요. And that means, I've watched a Korean movie. Congratulations. You've just practiced 5 different ways to talk about your experiences. I'm telling you, that repetition is going to make a huge, huge difference. So now that you've got the sound and the feel of it, let's actually break down the grammar. That way you can use it with any verb you want. Let's get into the mechanics and see how it's all put together. The heart of everything we just practiced is this pattern, a or ba, so, yo. You use this when you want to say you've personally tried doing something, to test it out, to experience it, just to see what it's all about. It's really that simple.
And building this is actually super simple. It's just 3 steps. First, you grab a verb stem, like muk from mukta, to eat. Second, you add the connector, boda, which means to try doing. And finally, you just change boda to its past tense form, passoyo. And boom, 먹어봤어요. You've done it.
All right, so you've got the basics down pat. But there are a couple of key details that'll make you sound even more natural. Let's look at a common point of confusion and, of course, how to say no. Okay, this is really important. These two patterns might seem similar, but there's a subtle difference. The one we're learning today, 봤어요, really focuses on the act of trying something out. The other one, 본 적이 있어요, is more about just stating a fact that you have that experience in your past. Think of it like the difference between saying, I tried it, versus I've done it before. So what if you haven't tried something? It's easy. The negative form is 아직 안 해봤어요, or 아직 못 해봤어요. This basically means I haven't tried it yet. And that yet is a really key part of the meaning. So if someone asks if you've tried making kimchi, you can just say, 아니요, 아직 안 만들어봤어요.
You've done the drill. You understand the rules. Now comes the most important part, actually putting it all into practice. Let's get you ready to use this in your own real-life conversations. Here is one last example, just to inspire you. 한국어로 편지를 써봤어요. That means I tried writing a letter in Korean. See? It works for literally any activity you can think of that you've tried or experienced for yourself.
So here is your big takeaway tip. As soon as we're done here, take just 1 minute. Think of 3 things you have actually tried. It could be a new food, a new hobby, a place you visited, and try to form a sentence for each one using 봤어요. This is how you really make it your own. So I'll leave you with this question. What's something you've tried? It can be big, it can be small, doesn't matter. Think about it and then try to say it out loud, right now, using the grammar we learned today. Go on, give it a try. Thanks so much for joining me.
Hey everyone, and welcome. We're about to jump into a super useful piece of Korean grammar, one that's going to totally open up what you can talk about. So, you ever wonder how you actually say, I can do this, or I can't do that in Korean? Things like, I can speak Korean, or maybe I can't eat spicy food. Well, we're going to break it all down right now. All right, the magic formula for saying I can is right here. It's 울 수 있다. All you do is stick this onto the end of a verb, and boom, you can talk about all the things you're able to do. So, let's see it in action. Okay, our first sentence is a total classic, something every Korean learner needs to know. Listen up close. 한국어를 할 수 있어요. All right, let's get this into our muscle memory. We're going to say it 3 times. Just repeat after me. Ready? 한국어를 할 수 있어요. Awesome. Again now. 한국어를 할 수 있어요. And one last time, say it like you mean it. 한국어를 할 수 있어요. Perfect. And what does that mean? It means I can speak Korean. What a great phrase to have, right? So the verb we're using is 하다, which is to do. When you mix it with our pattern, it literally becomes can do, which in this case means can speak. Ready for another one? Let's switch up the verb. This time, we're talking about food. Always a good topic. So here's how you'd say you can eat kimchi. Okay, let's do our 3 reps. Repeat after me. 김치를 먹을 수 있어요. Nice one. Let's do it again. 김치를 먹을 수 있어요. Great. And for the last time, 김치를 먹을 수 있어요. See, you're totally getting the hang of this. And that, of course, means I can eat kimchi. The verb is 먹다, to eat. So you just add our pattern, and 먹을 수 있어요 becomes can eat. It's pretty logical once you see it, right? All right, one more positive example, just to really nail it down. This one's about a common hobby. Okay, your turn again. Let's get the flow of this one down. Repeat after me 3 times. 피아노를 칠 수 있어요. Good. Again. 피아노를 칠 수 있어요. And one last time for good measure. 피아노를 칠 수 있어요. Really nice work. And that sentence means I can play the piano. Oh, and here's a cool little tip for you. The verb 치다 is what you use for instruments you hit or strum, like a piano or guitar. Okay, now get ready for this because it's so simple to go from can to cannot. So we just learned how to say you can play the piano. Now look at how you say you can't play the guitar. The sentences look almost exactly the same. Did you spot the one little word that changes everything? You got it. You just swap out 있다 for 없다. That's it. So the formula for I can't is 수 없다. It's honestly that easy. Okay, let's practice with this one now. All right, time for our first cannot example. So let's say you can speak Korean, but you want to let someone know you can't speak Chinese. This is how you'd say it. Okay, let's get this one down. Repeat after me. 중국어는 할 수 없어요. Nice. Let's go again. 중국어는 할 수 없어요. And one more time. 중국어는 할 수 없어요. And that translates to, I can't speak Chinese. See? It's the exact opposite of our very first sentence, and all we did was change that last word. Okay, let's circle back to the music example. So you can play the piano, but what if you can't play the guitar? Okay, this is our last one using this pattern, so let's make it a good one. Repeat with me. 기타는 칠 수 없어요. Again, nice and clear. 기타는 칠 수 없어요. And one last time. 기타는 칠 수 없어요. Perfect. And that means I can't play the guitar. So now you see how you can just plug in different verbs to talk about anything you can or can't do. Pretty cool, huh? But wait, there's more. I've got one more tool for your Korean toolbox. There's another super common way to say can't not. And this one's even shorter. All you do is put the word 못 right before the verb. Let's check out an example. And trust me, this is a super practical phrase. You'll hear this one all the time if you're ever in Korea. All right, new pattern means a new practice round. Let's do it. Repeat after me. 매운 음식은 못 먹어요. Good. Again, 매운 음식은 못 먹어요. And one last time. 매운 음식은 못 먹어요. Fantastic. And that just means I can't eat spicy food. Now, it means the same thing as the longer version we learned, but you'll hear the shorter 못 version a lot in just everyday casual chat, so it's a really good one to have in your back pocket. Okay, let's do a super quick recap of everything we just covered. For I can, we've got 한국어를 할 수 있어요. I can speak Korean. 김치를 먹을 수 있어요. I can eat kimchi. And 피아노를 칠 수 있어요. I can play the piano. And for I cannot, we have 중국어는 할 수 없어요. I can't speak Chinese. 기타는 칠 수 없어요. I can't play the guitar. And our short and sweet version, 매운 음식은 못 먹어요. I can't eat spicy food. So, we've gone through the grammar, we've practiced saying it out loud. Now for the most important part, you have to use it. So here's a little challenge for you. What can you do? Go ahead and try making your own sentence right now with the 수 있어요 pattern. Thanks so much for joining me, and happy learning! Hey everyone, and welcome. You know when you want to connect two different actions in one single smooth Korean sentence? Well, today we're going to learn the super simple particle that lets you do exactly that. It's going to make your Korean sound so much more natural. So think about it. How do you say something like, I did this, and then I did that? How do you link those two ideas together in Korean without it sounding clumsy? That's the big question we're going to answer today. Well, the answer is actually really simple, and it all comes down to one powerful little particle. So let's meet our grammar point for today. And here it is. It's 고, and you pronounce it 고. Using it is so easy. You just find the stem of your first verb, where you drop the da at the end, and then you just attach 고. It's really the most common way to say and when you're connecting actions. Pretty cool, right? Okay, theory is one thing, but seeing it in action is way, way better. So let's dive into our first example. First, just have a listen. Here's the sentence. 한국어를 공부하고 드라마를 봤어요. So what does this mean? It means I studied Korean and watched a drama. See what's happening? We take the verb for to study, 공부하다, we drop that final da to get the stem, and we add our particle. So you get 공부하고, which literally means studied and, it just perfectly links the two actions together in one thought. Now it's our turn to practice saying it out loud. I'll say it, and you just repeat after me in the little pause. We're going to do it 3 times. Ready? 한국어를 공부하고 드라마를 봤어요. Again. 한국어를 공부하고 드라마를 봤어요. One last time. 한국어를 공부하고 드라마를 봤어요. Awesome job.
All right, let's keep the momentum going with example number 2. This one's a little bit different because it actually involves 2 different people.
Okay, here's the next sentence. Listen closely. 친구는 노래하고 저는 춤췄어요. So this one translates to my friends sang and I danced. You see how perfectly Cole connects what the friend was doing, singing, 노래하고, with what I was doing, dancing? It's just that simple. All right, let's get the rhythm of this one down. Ready? Repeat after me. 친구는 노래하고 저는 춤췄어요. Let's try it again. 친구는 노래하고 저는 춤췄어요. And one more time. 친구는 노래하고 저는 춤췄어요. Excellent. You are getting the hang of this. Let's try another one that describes a pretty common evening routine. 음악을 듣고 숙제를 했어. This one means I listened to music and did my homework. We take the verb to listen, 듣다, and it becomes 듣고. It's a perfect way to describe how you spent your night. Okay, let's practice this one. Say it with me. 음악을 듣고 숙제를 했어요. Again, nice and clear. 음악을 듣고 숙제를 했어요. Last one. 음악을 듣고 숙제를 했어요. Perfect. For our next example, let's look at a sentence that describes some household chores. Here we go. 엄마는 요리하고 아빠는 청소했어요. And this one means mom cooked and dad cleaned. Again, you can see mom's action, 요리하고, is seamlessly connected to dad's action. It's just a really clean and efficient way to describe a scene. Okay, time to practice. You know the drill. Let's say this one with confidence. 엄마는 요리하고 아빠는 청소했어요. Again, 엄마는 요리하고 아빠는 청소했어요. One more time. 엄마는 요리하고 아빠는 청소했어요. Fantastic. Okay, just one last one to really master this. This is a super common sentence you might use when talking about what you did over the weekend. 친구를 만나고 같이 영화를 봤어. And this translates to I met my friend and watched a movie together. So the first action is meeting the friend, 만나고, and then the next action follows. That word 같이 just adds that nice together feeling to it. Let's finish strong with our last practice round. Repeat after me. 친구를 만나고 같이 영화를 봤어요. Good. Again. 친구를 만나고 같이 영화를 봤어요. Last time, make it count. 친구를 만나고 같이 영화를 봤어요. You've definitely got this. All right, that was fantastic work. You've now seen 5 different ways to use goal. Let's do a quick final review just to lock it all in. You know, the best way to really make this stick is to get familiar with the patterns. So let's read through all 5 of our example sentences one last time. This time, just listen and follow along on the screen. 한국어를 공부하고 드라마를 봤어요. 친구는 노래하고 저는 춤췄어요. 음악을 듣고 숙제를 했어요. 엄마는 요리하고 아빠는 청소했어요. 친구를 만나고 같이 영화를 봤어요. And now, it's your turn to try it out. Think about what you did today. Can you connect 2 of those actions into a single sentence using goal? Go on, give it a shot. That's how you really make this grammar your own. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep practicing.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're jumping into one of the most useful connectors in the entire Korean language. Have you ever wondered how to link 2 completely opposite ideas into one smooth sentence? Well, if you have, you are in the perfect place.
So let's get right into it with this question. Just think about how many times a day you use the word but in English. You know, like, this coffee is great, but it's a little cold. Or, I want to go out, but I'm really tired. Nailing that contrast is such a huge step to sounding more natural in Korean. And that is exactly what we are going to master together today.
And here it is, your magic word, jiman.
It's pronounced jiman. This simple little ending is the key. All you have to do is attach it to the stem of a verb or an adjective,
And just like that, you can connect it to a contrasting idea. Seriously, think of it as your go-to tool for saying but or although. Okay, so knowing the rule is one thing, but practice is where it really starts to click. So to make this sink in, we're going to walk through 5 awesome examples together. I want you to listen really closely to the sound and the rhythm of each one.
All right, here's our very first example. Listen close and try to catch the pronunciation. 한국어는 어렵지만 재미있어요. Okay, let's hear that one more time. 한국어는 어렵지만 재미있어요.
And one last time for good measure. 한국어는 어렵지만 재미있어요. So this means Korean is difficult, but it's fun. You see how that works? We've got the idea of difficult on one side, and Jimon perfectly connects it to the opposite idea, fun. It's all about that balance. Awesome. Let's try another one. This is a phrase you'll hear all the time, especially when you're talking about food. 비싸지만 맛있어요. Listen to that again. 비싸지만 맛있어요. Okay, let's hear it one final time. 비싸지만 맛있어요. And this one means it's expensive, but it's delicious. This phrase just captures that feeling perfectly, doesn't it? The price might be a downer, but the amazing taste makes it totally worth it. A classic use of 지만. All right, moving on to our third example. Now this one is great because it connects a feeling to something you have to do. 피곤하지만 숙제를 해야 해요. And again, 피곤하지만 숙제를 해야 해요. Okay, one last time. 피곤하지만 숙제를 해야 해요. This translates to, I'm tired, but I have to do my homework. And what's so cool about this one is how 지만 bridges that gap between an internal feeling, being tired, and an external responsibility, like getting homework done. Here we go, number 4. This one contrasts a feeling with a situation. Ready? 좋아하지만 자주 못 봐요. Let's repeat that together. 좋아하지만 자주 못 봐요. And one final time now. 좋아하지만 자주 못 봐요. This means I like it, but I can't see it often. It's just a perfect way to show that you feel one way, this positive emotion, but the situation limits you. And now for our final example. This is a really handy sentence that deals with time and your intention to help. 시간이 없지만 조금 도와줄게요. Let's hear it once more. 시간이 없지만 조금 도와줄게요.
And for the final time, 시간이 없지만 조금 도와줄게요. This one is so useful, right? It means I don't have time, but I'll help a little. It beautifully contrasts the reality of being busy with the desire to offer a hand anyway.
You did an amazing job with that. We just went through 5 different really practical ways to use 지만. So let's lock all this in with a quick final review to put everything together. All right, for our final review, let's just listen to all 5 sentences one last time. Ready? 한국어는 어렵지만 재미있어요. 비싸지만 맛있어요. 피곤하지만 숙제를 해야 해요. 좋아하지만 자주 못 봐요. 시간이 없지만 조금 도와줄게요. And there you have it, 5 super clear and useful ways to use 지만 in a conversation.
So, you've got the tool now. You know how to connect those contrasting ideas and make your Korean sound that much more fluent. The only real question left is the one you see on the screen. What sentence are you going to make with 지만? Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a really, really useful piece of Korean grammar, how to say or. It's something we use all the time for making plans, talking about what we like, you name it. By the end of our time together, you'll have this one down, for sure. So let's just jump right in. Okay, so think about it. How many times a day do you make a choice? Should I get coffee or tea? Do I want to read a book or watch a movie? That little word or is doing a lot of work there, right? So the big question is, how do we say this in Korean, especially when we're talking about actions? Let's find out. All right, the Korean word for or is, well, it's a particle, and it's called gonna. Let's say that together, gonna. It kind of sounds like Giona. This little guy is going to be our best friend today. You just stick it right onto the end of a verb or adjective stem, and boom, you've connected 2 choices. It's super versatile. So here's the bottom line. Whenever you see gonna attached to a word, you know you're looking at a choice between 2 things, usually actions or descriptions. It's basically the Korean version of or for verbs and adjectives. Now,
You might be thinking, what about nouns, like coffee or tea? Well, that uses a different particle. But for today, we're laser focused on gone. Okay, enough with the theory, right? The best way to learn this stuff is to see it in action. So let's go through some real everyday examples. And to make sure you really get the hang of the pronunciation, I'm going to say each sentence for you 3 times, nice and slow. Just listen and soak it in. All right, here's our very first sentence. Listen closely. 책을 읽거나 영화를 봐요. Okay, let's hear that again. 책을 읽거나 영화를 봐요. And one last time. 책을 읽거나 영화를 봐요. So what does that mean? It means I read a book or watch a movie. See how that works? We take the verb to read, which is 읽다, drop the da to get the stem, and just add 거나. Super simple. Ready for another one? This is a choice many of us make every single morning. 커피를 마시거나 차를 마셔요. Let's repeat that. 커피를 마시거나 차를 마셔요. One more time for good measure. 커피를 마시거나 차를 마셔요. And this means I drink coffee or tea. Again, you can see we're taking the verb to drink, 마시다, and attaching our magic particle, 거나, to give us that choice. Okay, so this is where it gets even more interesting. 거나 isn't just for simple things like coffee or movies. Nope. You can use it to talk about your plans, different possibilities, or even to give someone a little friendly advice. Let's check out how flexible this thing really is. So imagine someone asks you about your weekend. Here's what you could say. 주말에 산에 가거나 쉬어요. Let's hear that again, a little slower. 주말에 산에 가거나 쉬어요. And once more, 주말에 산에 가거나 쉬어요. This translates to, I go hiking or rest on weekends. So you're giving 2 possibilities for your weekend plans, connecting to go, 가다, and to rest, 쉬다. Easy, right? Okay, now for that advice I mentioned. This is a really nice, caring thing to say to someone. Listen. 피곤하거나 아프면 쉬세요. Let's listen to the flow of that one again. 피곤하거나 아프면 쉬세요. And one last time. 피곤하거나 아프면 쉬세요. This means if you're tired or sick, take a rest. And hey, did you notice something cool there? This time we're not connecting verbs, we're connecting adjectives. To be tired, 피곤하다, and to be sick, 아프다. See, it works for both. All right, our last example. Let's talk about the future. What are you doing tomorrow? Here's an option. 내일 친구를 만나거나 집에 있을 거예요. Let's repeat it. 내일 친구를 만나거나 집에 있을 거예요. And our final repetition. 내일 친구를 만나거나 집에 있을 거예요. This one means I'll meet a friend or stay home tomorrow. And look at that. It works perfectly with the future tense. You just connect your 2 options, to meet, 만나다, and to stay, 있다. So powerful. Awesome job, seriously. We've gone through 5 great examples of how to use 거나. Now, to really make it stick, let's bring them all back and look at them one more time all together. Okay, let's do a quick lightning round. I'll read each sentence one more time. 책을 읽거나 영화를 봐요. 커피를 마시거나 차를 마셔요. 주말에 산에 가거나 쉬어요. 피곤하거나 아프면 쉬세요. And 내일 친구를 만나거나 집에 있을 거예요. You can really see the pattern now, can't you? It's the same, simple, logical structure every time. So what's the big takeaway from all this? It's actually really simple. Whenever you need to say or between 2 actions or descriptions in Korean, 거나 is your go-to tool. Just find the verb or adjective stem, pop it on the end, and you are good to go. All right, now the fun part. It's your turn to try. So what will you do today? What are your plans? Maybe 공부하거나 쉴 거예요? Are you going to study or rest? Go ahead and try to make your own sentence using 거거나. Seriously, the best way to make this stuff stick is to actually use it. Thanks so much for hanging out today and happy learning. Hey everyone, welcome. Today we are going to tackle a piece of Korean grammar that you will use all the time. Seriously. It's all about how to say if, and it is an absolute game changer for making your conversations sound so much more natural. So let's just jump right in with the big question, right? You want to say something like, if it's sunny, or if I'm hungry. How do you actually do that in Korean? Well, you are in the right place because that is exactly what we're going to learn today. And the answer is this little guy right here, u면. You pronounce that u면. This is the magic key to unlocking all those conditional sentences. It's your if, it's your when, and it sets up the condition for whatever you're about to say next. Okay, so how do we actually use it? The rule is actually pretty simple, but it does change just a little bit depending on what kind of word you're attaching it to. Let's take a look. This chart breaks it all down for us. It's really logical when you see it laid out. For verbs and adjectives, the rule is exactly the same. So if the word stem ends in a consonant, like the word for to eat, 먹다, you add 음연, so it becomes 먹으면. But if the stem ends in a vowel, like to be pretty, 예쁘다, you just add 면. That becomes 예쁘면. And for nouns, it's even easier. You just pop 이면 on the end. See? Super consistent. So here's the absolute main thing you need to remember. It all comes down to whether or not there's a final consonant at the bottom, which is called a 받침. If you see a 받침, you add 으면. That little oo sound is like a bridge, you know? It just makes it flow better. If there's no final consonant, you just add 면. That's it. That is the main rule. All right, enough with the rules. The best way to really get this is to see it in action, right? So let's look at some real sentences. I'm going to read each one for you 3 times, nice and slow, so you can really hear how it sounds. Okay, here's our first one. I want you to just listen. 비가 오면 집에 있을 거예요. Let's hear it again, a little slower. 비가 오면 집에 있을 거예요. And one more time, really listen for that 면 sound. 비가 오면 집에 있을 거예요. So what does it mean? It means, if it rains, I'll stay home. The verb here is 오다, to come. The stem is just 오, which ends in a vowel, so we just add 면 to get 오면. If it rains. See how simple that is? Okay, next up is a really useful sentence for making plans. Listen closely. 시간이 있으면 같이 영화 봐요. Again, nice and slow. 시간이 있으면 같이 영화 봐요. And one last time, try to say it along with me. 시간이 있으면 같이 영화 봐요. This one means, if you have time, let's watch a movie together. So here we're using the word 있다, which means to have or to exist. Remember our rule. The stem ends in a consonant, so we have to add 으면. That's how we get 있으면, if there is time. It's the perfect way to make a suggestion. All right, our next sentence is a little word of warning. Let's listen. 많이 먹으면 배가 아파요. Again, hear that cause and effect? 많이 먹으면 배가 아파요. One final time, nice and clear. 많이 먹으면 배가 아파요. And that warning is, if you eat a lot, your stomach will hurt. The verb is 먹다, to eat. The stem is 먹, and it ends with that consonant sound, right? So we add 으면 to get 먹으면. If this happens, then that happens. Super logical. Let's do another one, this time about some nice weather. Let's listen. 날씨가 좋으면 산책해요. Let's hear it again. 날씨가 좋으면 산책해요. And once more for good measure. 날씨가 좋으면 산책해요. And this one means, if the weather is nice, I take a walk. Here we're using an adjective, 좋다, which means to be good. The stem ends in a consonant, so we add 으면 to get 좋으면. If the weather is good, a perfect everyday kind of sentence. And for our last example, I've got a little bit of encouragement just for you. Listen carefully to this one. 열심히 공부하면 한국어가 늘 거예요. Let's hear that again. Think of it as a promise. 열심히 공부하면 한국어가 늘 거예요. One last time, let's say it with confidence. 열심히 공부하면 한국어가 늘 거예요. And what is that promise? It's, if you study hard, your Korean will improve. The verb here is 공부하다, to study. The stem 하다 ends in a vowel, so we just add 면, 공부하면. It's the perfect way to connect your hard work to that awesome result you're looking for. You guys are doing great, but listening is only half the journey. The most important part is actually making this grammar yours. So let's talk about how you can start using this, like, today. Okay, the absolute best way to make this stick is to connect it to your life. Think about your day. What do you do if something happens? For instance, 배고프면 밥을 먹어요 means if I'm hungry, I eat. Or 피곤하면 쉬어요. If I'm tired, I rest. Or how about 날씨가 추우면 코트를 입어요? If it's cold, I wear a coat. See? They're simple, they're true for you, and they're perfect for practice. So that brings us to your mission for today. I want you to try and write just 3 sentences about your day using 으면. Write them down, but more importantly, say them out loud. What do you do if you're happy? What will you do if it snows? Make it personal. Awesome. Okay, before we finish up, let's do a super quick review of the main points just to make sure everything is locked in. So let's recap. Point 1, 으면 is your go-to for if or when. Point 2, and this is the big one, remember the sound rule. 으면 comes after a consonant and 면 comes after a vowel. And finally, remember it's super flexible. It works with verbs, adjectives, and even nouns. And to really let it sink in, let's just listen to our 5 example sentences one last time. Just listen and read along. 비가 오면 집에 있을 거예요. 시간이 있으면 같이 영화 봐요. 많이 먹으면 배가 아파요. 날씨가 좋으면 산책해요. 열심히 공부하면 한국어가 늘 거예요. You did an excellent job today. Just remember, learning the rule is step 1. The real magic happens when you actually start using it. So don't be shy. Make your own sentences, say them out loud. Your voice is really the key to all of this. Keep up the amazing work. All right, today we're going to jump into one of the most essential grammar patterns in Korean for talking about the future. Seriously, by the end of this quick explainer, you'll be able to talk about your plans and intentions with total confidence. So let's just dive right in. So let me ask you this. How do you actually say something like, I will, or I'm going to in Korean? You know, if you want to say, I'm going to study, or I will meet a friend, what's the key piece of grammar you need? What's that magic tool? Well, here it is. The answer is this fantastic little pattern, 을 or 거예요. This is going to be your absolute go-to for talking about anything in the future. It's basically the Korean way of saying will or be going to. And the best part, it's super common and polite, so you can use it all the time. Okay, so how do we actually use it? This is where it gets really easy, I promise. The rule is super simple, and it all boils down to one key concept you probably already know, 받침. Yep, that final consonant in a syllable block. Let's break down how this one little thing changes everything. Okay, check this out. It's actually so straightforward. It all depends on whether or not the verb stem has a final consonant, that 받침. So if the verb stem ends in a vowel with no 받침, you just stick on 릴 거예요. Take 가다, to go. The stem is ka, no final consonant, right? So it just becomes 갈 거예요, easy. Now on the other side, if the verb stem does have a final consonant, like 먹다, to eat, the stem is 먹. See that 기역 at the bottom? Because of that, we add 을 거예요, so it becomes 먹을 거예요. See? It's really that simple. All right, so we've got the rule down, but you know, rules are one thing, seeing them in action is what really makes it click. So let's look at some real everyday sentences. I'm going to read each one for you, slowly, 3 times. This is your chance to really listen to the sound and maybe even repeat after me. Okay, first up, 내일 친구를 만날 거예요. 내일 친구를 만날 거예요. 내일 친구를 만날 거예요. This means I will meet my friend tomorrow. And you can see the verb is 만나다. The stem is 만나. No 받침, so we just add 될 거예요. Here's the next one. 오늘 저녁에 영화를 볼 거예요. 오늘 저녁에 영화를 볼 거예요. 오늘 저녁에 영화를 볼 거예요. This one means I'm going to watch a movie this evening. And again, the verb is 보다. Stem is 보. No final consonant, so it becomes 볼 거예요. Let's try another. 주말에 청소할 거예요. 주말에 청소할 거예요. 주말에 청소할 거예요. This sentence translates to I will clean on the weekend. The verb here is 청소하다. The stem is 청소하, which ends in that vowel sound, so, you guessed it, we add 릴 거예요. Okay, how about this one? 다음 주에 여행을 갈 거예요. 다음 주에 여행을 갈 거예요. 다음 주에 여행을 갈 거예요. This one simply means I'm going to travel next week. And hey, look, this uses our very first example verb, 가다, turning into 갈 거예요. See how it works? And for our last example, listen closely. 열심히 공부할 거예요. 열심히 공부할 거예요. 열심히 공부할 거예요. This is a great one. I will study hard. Just like we saw with 청소하다, The verb here is 공부하다, so it becomes 공부할 거예요. A perfect sentence to keep in your back pocket. Okay, so you've seen the rule. You've heard it in some real sentences. Now it's time to get you involved. This is the most important part, right? The best way to really lock in a new grammar point is to start using it yourself, to talk about your own life. So, just to get your brain working, here are a few more examples. Look at that second one. 주말에 쉴 거예요. That comes from the verb 쉬다, which means to rest. And the last one, we already know. So start thinking, what are your plans? What are you going to do tomorrow, or this weekend, or maybe next month? So I've got a little mission for you. It's super simple, but trust me, it's so effective. After we're done here, just take a minute and think about your own plans for tomorrow. Then try to write down just 3 sentences using what we learned today. It can be anything at all, like the example here. 내일 아침에 운동할 거예요. This is really how you turn passive learning into an active skill. Okay, before we wrap this up, let's do one last super quick review. Just hearing these sentences one more time is really going to help them stick in your head. All right, let's just read through our 5 key sentences one last time at a nice natural speed. Ready? 내일 친구를 만날 거예요. 오늘 저녁에 영화를 볼 거예요. 주말에 청소할 거예요. 다음 주에 여행을 갈 거예요. 열심히 공부할 거예요. Perfect. These 5 are a fantastic starting point for talking about your future. And with that, I'm going to leave you with a question, using the very grammar we just mastered. 내일 뭐 할 거예요? What will you do tomorrow? Give it some thought. You now have the perfect way to answer that in Korean. Thanks so much for joining me for this breakdown, and happy learning!